In 1999, a homeowner in Jericho, New York, was clearing out his crawlspace when he found a rusted 55-gallon steel drum. It weighed nearly 350 pounds and had sat completely untouched by multiple owners over 3 decades. Prying open the heavy lid revealed a mass of synthetic plastic pellets floating in a dark green chemical dye. Tangled within that industrial mixture was the body of a pregnant woman. The condition of her remains was dictated by a specific chemistry inside the barrel. The heavy steel walls created an airtight seal, while the industrial chemicals and plastic beads drew moisture away from the tissue, stalling decomposition and causing the body to mummify. This left investigators with 2 immediate challenges: identifying a victim who had been effectively erased from the world, and profiling the kind of mind that packages a body and lives a normal suburban life directly above it. The sheer effort required to seal and hide a barrel of that size suggests a crime defined by logistics. It was an act of concealment that required a high degree of calculation and a total commitment to secrecy. 30 years of submersion in green dye had destroyed almost all physical evidence. The only identifying item pulled from the barrel was an address book, but the paper had decayed into an illegible, saturated pulp. Experts used a video spectral comparator, or VSC. Scanning the rotted paper with ultraviolet and infrared light bypassed the surface stains, revealing the carbon-based ink. As the light pulled data, a social security number appeared, identifying a crucial witness, Kathy Andrade. That recovered data finally gave the victim her name. She was Reyna Marroquín. In 1966, she left a failed marriage in El Salvador and arrived in the bustling streets of New York to build a new life. We can see the environment she worked in through photographs like this one. Reyna found a job painting artificial plants at Melrose Plastics in Manhattan. She took English classes at night, but she was largely isolated, navigating a new country without any immediate family. To an offender seeking to protect their social standing, an immigrant with no domestic safety net appears highly vulnerable. If she vanished, there would be no family members locally to force a police investigation. Investigators soon identified the man who exploited that vulnerability: Howard Elkins, the affluent, respected co-owner of Melrose Plastics, who had initiated a clandestine affair with Reyna. By late 1968, Reyna was pregnant. Frustrated by Elkins' broken promises, Reyna made a final decision to reveal their secret. She called Elkins home and informed his wife about the affair and the baby. Elkins operated with a pattern of rigid compartmentalization, keeping his wealthy suburban life and his factory life entirely separate. When Reyna made that phone call, she threatened the very social standing Elkins had spent his life constructing. The autopsy revealed multiple blunt force trauma injuries to Reyna's skull. Combined with the timeline of her phone call to Elkins' wife, these forensic findings suggest a violent confrontation triggered by the sudden threat to Elkins' domestic life. Look closely at these plastic pellets. Following the murder, Elkins utilized materials straight from his own factory floor. He placed Reyna inside a chemical transport drum, poured in green dye, and packed the remaining space densely with polystyrene beads, intending to sink the barrel in the ocean. But he made a critical miscalculation. The combined mass pushed the final weight to 350 pounds. It was entirely too heavy for one man to lift onto a boat. Elkins' logistical planning had created a massive, literal deadweight that he was forced to roll into the crawlspace of his own house. 30 years later, detectives traced the manufacturing codes on that barrel directly to Melrose Plastics and tracked down the former owner of the Jericho house. They found Howard Elkins, now 70 years old, living out a quiet retirement in Boca Raton, Florida. When detectives arrived at his door, Elkins was highly glib, feigning total ignorance of the barrel. But as investigators listed the specific factory materials found at the crime scene, his calm exterior broke into visible agitation. The detectives then played their final card. They demanded a DNA sample to test against the unborn child found in the drum, making it clear they would return shortly with a court order. Within 24 hours of that interview, Elkins went to a local store, purchased a 12-gauge shotgun, and committed suicide in the back of a neighbor's car. By choosing suicide, Elkins avoided the public scrutiny of a trial and ensured the full details of the crime would never be read into a court record. He maintained control of his narrative until the very end. Elkins' death removed him from the justice system, but it did not stop the science. As shown here, Forensic experts extracted a post-mortem DNA sample and compared it against the mummified fetus using short tandem repeat analysis. This animation illustrates the definitive result. The two distinct genetic profiles slid into perfect alignment. The test returned a 99.93% probability of paternity, proving the motive with absolute scientific certainty. Armed with the truth, investigators fully restored Reyna's identity. Her remains were finally repatriated to El Salvador, where her 95-year-old mother was able to lay her to rest. Howard Elkins believed that his position, his wealth, and his own industrial waste could completely erase a human life. Instead, the exact industrial materials he used to silence her, the airtight steel, the synthetic dye, and the plastic beads, acted as a preservation system, ensuring that forensic truth would outlast the